Hey friends, glad you're here at Harry. We've cooked up something special. What if 11 found Harry locked in a cupboard at age 5 and they both discovered their powers were connected? Liking and subscribing really helps us out. Okay, story time. Chapter 1. The door beneath the stairs. The light in the tunnel was blue and wrong, not the sterile fluorescence of Hawkins' lab, but something older, raw, and wild. 11's bare feet slapped against concrete slick with condensation as sirens blared behind her. Men shouted her number, 11, like a command, as if saying her name gave them power over her. But this time she didn't stop. Her head throbbed. She'd pushed too hard again, blood crusted under her nose like rust. The gate's pulse chased her heartbeat. When she screamed, it wasn't loud, it was deep. The whole room folded inside out, and suddenly silence hit her like falling glass. Then grass, cold English rain dripped down her neck. She was kneeling on a suburban street under a street lamp that hummed in the drizzle. It smelled like rain-soaked tarmac and something faintly chemical, no decay, no toxins, no rot from the upside down, still earth. Maybe a different earth. Her breath was jagged as she looked around, identical houses, square hedges, cars with license plates she couldn't read, color everywhere, too much. The street sign said Privet Drive. She leaned against a brick wall, shaking, trying to feel for the hum of the mind flayer, for any trace of psychic interference. Nothing, just space, just silence so complete it nauseated her. Her limbs twitched, every instinct screaming to hide. A porch light flicked on nearby. Voices floated out, sharp, nasal, adult arguments. Something slammed. Then from beneath the sound of rain, she heard faint, muffled sobbing. She tilted her head, focused. The sound came from inside house number 4, not upstairs like a bedroom, lower. Her vision narrowed subconsciously the way it always did when she pushed her mind forward, pressure on her skull, then ripples through air like sonar. Behind the neat brick facade was a small cupboard. Inside, a small body curled around a blanket that didn't fit. The sobbing stopped. She walked to the front door without thinking. The door locked, but locks never mattered. She closed her eyes briefly, touched the psychic field. The latch clicked like it wanted to help her. Inside smelled of cleaning chemicals and cooked fat, sterile, wrong warmth. 11 moved soft as a shadow toward the cupboard under the stairs. Her fingers traced the grain of the door, paint ridged like sandpaper. Something behind it welled, sadness so heavy it made her chest hollow out. "Hello," she whispered. Silence, then a child's whisper, trembling close. "I am not supposed to talk." She closed her fingers and the lock creaked. When the cupboard door opened, her heart forgot how to beat for 1 second. The boy crouched there was tiny, pale, bruised where skin should never be bruised. Glasses cracked at one edge, green eyes too bright for the gloom. He stared up at her like she was the monster and the savior at once. "Are you," his voice caught, "are you one of the bad ones?" "No," she said automatically. She didn't know if that was true anymore. "I heard you. Are you hurt?" He shrugged, terrified of answering wrong. "They don't like me." 11 gently reached forward, and when her fingers brushed the air between them, it hummed. It was like two magnets finding their poles, something beneath reality quivering into resonance. She tasted metal on her tongue. For a flash, she saw blue light pulse through his skin, the same haunted, electric shimmer she'd seen around herself in mirrors when angry. The boy flinched. What was that? Did you?" Her head spun. "You have it too." Then the floorboards above creaked heavy. A voice, loud, booming, the kind that forced obedience by existing, bellowed, "Boy, who are you talking to down there?" The boy's face drained of blood. He backed into his cupboard like the air itself punished curiosity. "Don't," 11 said quietly, standing. Heavy footsteps. She didn't need to see the man. His mind was an ugly smear of anger and furniture. When he yanked the door fully open, 11's balance shifted instinctively forward. Adrenaline took over thought. "What the hell?" the man began, and then his voice cut off, because she looked at him. Not anger, not fear, just command. Her eyes locked. Energy crackled invisible between them. The man's veins stood out, his face slackened. He stumbled back, wheezing like his lungs forgot how to expand. She squeezed her fist once, not physically, but psychically, and the light bulbs in the hallway shattered, raining glass down. Harry, the boy, she realized, stared wide-eyed in the flickering darkness. His fear wasn't aimed at her, though it was awe. The woman upstairs screamed. 11 turned. "Let's go." "I can't," Harry whispered. "They said," "Forget what they said," she snapped, flicking her wrist. The front door flung open like a bomb blast. Cold wind poured in. "Come now." He hesitated half a second before scrambling forward, grabbing the small blanket like armor. Thunder cracked outside, and then they were running down Privet Drive into a night that didn't seem to end. They didn't stop until streetlights faded and hedges gave way to trees. Rain soaked them both. 11 leaned against a lamppost, breathing hard, nose bleeding freely now. Harry clutched her sleeve like she was the only solid thing in a world of ghosts. "What are you?" he asked, voice half wonder, half terror. She wiped at her face, smearing blood and rain together. "I don't know you." His small mouth twisted. "They said I'm strange, not normal." 11 nodded in grim humor. "Then we're the same." When she reached for him again, this time intentionally, the hum between them grew louder. It wasn't just psychic echo anymore. Light flared from their palms like invisible heat distortion. The puddles around their feet rippled outward, forming circles of symmetry, as if acknowledging a pattern too perfect to exist naturally. Harry gasped, "I can see things when you touch me." "What things?" she asked. "Doors everywhere, they're open." His words trembled. "And someone's watching." That made her freeze cold inside. "From where?" "I don't know." He looked up, blinking away rain. "It looks like another world, monsters." Elle turned her gaze upward. Cloud cover broke momentarily, revealing a patch of unnatural light, pale and flickering, like the sky itself had forgotten which side of the gate it belonged to. Hawkins, she thought. But she wasn't there anymore, and the leak somehow followed her. They found shelter under a railway bridge by dawn. The city noises in the distance sounded like another planet compared to Hawkins. 11 stole bread and milk from a nearby shop with a burst of telekinesis that snapped the lock while no one looked. Harry watched silently, trying not to breathe wrong. When they sat together on the cold concrete steps, eating without words, he blurted softly, "You weren't scared." Elle chewed slowly, considered him. "You were." He looked down. "I thought they'd kill me." "They can't," she said simply. Something in her tone made even the wind pause. Harry studied her with new caution, not fear, but the kind of awe reserved for angels or weapons. "Can you teach me?" he asked finally. She blinked. "Teach you?" Whatever that was, the lights, the door, the things in your head. Her muscles ached with exhaustion. She wanted sleep, but his voice had hope in it, something she hadn't felt in a long time. "You already have it," she said. "You just haven't used it." He frowned. "How do you know?" She looked at him steadily. "Because I felt you open the door before I touched you." Rainwater dripped from the bridge. Cars hissed by. In that gray silence, Harry reached out, uncertain, his hand trembling. "Can we try again?" Elle hesitated only a moment, then touched his fingers. Thunder rolled even though no clouds moved. The air warped. Light poured from between their joined hands like liquid gold. Wind reversed direction. All around them, the bridge groaned, steel bending as if under pressure from inside reality itself. Harry cried out, startled by the raw surge. Elle closed her eyes and stabilized it, just like Daddy had taught her. No, not Daddy, Brenner. She almost hissed at the memory and forced her focus back. "Don't fight it," she said quietly. "Let it move through." The light expanded, forming a disk in the air before them. Inside the disk was a landscape neither recognized, old stone walls, green fires burning in braziers, shadow figures milling around. Somewhere deep inside her skull, 11 felt something notice. Then the disk snapped shut, leaving only echo and rain. Both children flinched back, panting. "What was that?" Harry asked, eyes huge. "Where I came from," she answered reluctantly. "And maybe where you should have been." He shook his head. "I don't belong anywhere." "You do now," 11 said, tone final. For a second, silence filled the space between them like warmth. Then both turned sharply toward the road. A black car had stopped, its headlights cut through the drizzle. Two people got out, silhouettes unfamiliar, one in a hat that didn't fit modern streets, another clutching something glowing faintly, a wand. Elle straightened, instincts flaring. Blood crust cracked on her cheek. "They found us." Harry blinked. "Found who?" Before she could answer, the wand raised, sparks flying. A voice called firmly in the dark, "Stay where you are, nobody needs to get hurt." Elle gritted her teeth. Liar. Energy rippled outward with a single thought. Number the ground split under the agent's feet. Their bodies were flung sideways. The street lamps surged and exploded. Harry yelped, but then his hand rose by reflex, mirroring her motion. The shockwave doubled in strength. The car flipped over like a toy. 11 dropped her hand, panting hard. The world spun around her, too much output. She felt the connection surge again through him, amplifying. Together they'd made something impossible, her power behaving like his magic, and his magic shaped like her psionic wave. She whispered, "They'll chase us." Harry replied quietly but strongly, "Then we'll run until they can't find us." She looked at him, at this tiny child whose courage was bigger than her nightmares, and nodded. In the distance, other lights began to flicker alive, red and blue, the unmistakable rhythm of agents moving in. Elle reached for his hand. "Hold tight." He did. The air snapped around them with a thunderclap as she pushed her mind to its edge again. The landscape blurred, color dissolving, gravity bending. For a heartbeat, everything turned white, and then they were gone. Only drifting cigarette smoke and the overturned car remained amid rain. Morning came. Somewhere far from Little Winging, on the outskirts of London, in a derelict playground where pigeons fluttered through broken swings, the two children reappeared. Harry's cheeks were blotched from windburn, but his eyes glowed faintly green. 11 coughed blood and spat rainwater, then laughed, quiet, disbelieving. They were alive, free. Harry glanced around nervously. What do we do now? She brushed mud off her knees. Find out why we shine when we touch. He frowned. You think it means something? I know it does, she said. Far above them, a shimmer hung briefly between clouds, an invisible crack in reality widening inch by inch. None of them saw it yet, but the world had already changed. Chapter 2. The stranger and the boy. The city didn't feel safe, but it felt alive. For two kids who had only ever known cages, that counted for something. 11 led Harry through a maze of alleys behind King's Cross Station, until the noise of trains drowned the sirens echoing in her mind. The distant clang of metal and hiss of brakes sounded like freedom, mechanical and raw. She stopped under a torn billboard. We stay here until dark, she said. Harry nodded automatically, though his gaze darted everywhere, the buildings, the moving crowds, the lights switching from red to green. So much color, so many people. He had never seen so much motion in one place. To her it was more frightening than the lab, to him more beautiful. Are we hiding? He asked tentatively. We're not caught, she replied. That's different. A train whined overhead, making the wall behind them vibrate. Harry sat cross-legged on the ground, hugging the handmade blanket. 11 crouched nearby, drying her hair with the hem of her sleeve. Her muscles still twitched from the strain of teleportation. She wasn't designed to move that far. Not yet. She closed her eyes briefly and reached out with her mind, scanning. The psychic field hummed faintly, fragmented signals rippling across London. Not normal mental noise, something structured. Not Brenner's frequency either. Magic had its own texture, thicker, more fluid, like emotion given shape. And someone was searching for them through it. She squeezed the thought shut, forcing it to silence. Across from her, Harry looked small but curious, far less afraid than she'd expected. You can feel things. He asked after a while. She nodded, hesitant to explain how deep that power went. What do they feel like? She glanced up at the passing clouds. Sometimes people feel loud, some only whisper you're loud. His mouth drew into a half-grin colored by wonder. I'm loud, not bad loud, she clarified, bright like electricity. Harry looked down, face shadowed with self-doubt. They said I was unnatural. They lied. Her voice was iron, perfectly measured. She didn't soften truth, only sharpened it. They found a way into an abandoned shop that smelled of dust and forgotten perfume. The power still worked. Fluorescent lights flickered weakly overhead. 11 scavenged canned food while Harry explored beneath shelves. When he pressed his hand against metal, it tingled. Strange symbols shimmered faintly on his skin before fading again. Did you see that? He whispered. She turned. What? He lifted his palm, still glowing faint green. The metal talked. Elle frowned, stepping closer. Do it again. He pressed the other hand flat against the shelf. A faint hum vibrated in air. A can rolled off by itself. Elle's breath caught. You're changing things, she murmured. Did I do it wrong? Number you made the world listen. Harry smiled, faint, proud and amazed. Feels like thinking very loud. She laughed quietly, the sound more human than she'd made in weeks. That's how it begins. By evening they had built something resembling a haven. Broken cardboard and blankets made a nest beside the window. Rain tapped against glass as street lamps blinked on, scattered gold in the fog. Harry lay staring at the ceiling. Do the monsters come here? Elle didn't answer immediately. The truth deserved timing. They follow power, she said finally. If we make too much noise, they'll find ways. He turned his head toward her, eyes wide and serious. Then we keep quiet. She looked at him for a long second. Number, her tone had steel under it. We learned to speak louder. 2 blocks away, inside a government surveillance van disguised as a delivery truck, screens lit up with interference patterns. A technician muttered something impatient in American English. Agent Lewis, former Hawkins field operative, grunted. This signature's insane, he said. Half psychokinetic waveform, half electromagnetic. Beside him, Dorothy Wren, senior liaison from Britain's magical security branch, adjusted her cloak. I told your people they're not psionics. They're conduits of ambient thaumaturgy. Lewis frowned. They're what? Magic, she said plainly. Real magic, Lewis scowled. We measure neuroelectric bursts, not fairy dust. Dorothy smiled thinly. Then your data's evolving. Back in the shop, 11 felt them. The adults didn't speak directly, but their intent rippled toward her, a probing net brushing the city's pulse. We need to move again, she whispered. Harry groaned softly. I thought we'd stay till morning. They're close, not Brenner, different. He sighed, frustration clear even in his small body. Well, they hurt us. Everyone wants something. She began packing the few things they'd stolen. None of them want us free. He hesitated, then asked, You ever think they'll stop? She thought about that for a long moment, her voice turning distant. Number. When they stepped back into the misty night, London's neon reflected on wet pavement. The rain had stopped, but air felt charged, like a thunderstorm waiting behind clouds. Harry shoved his hands into the oversized jacket she'd found for him. Where are we going? There's a place underground, she said, following a half-remembered psychic image. Tunnels, water, echoes. Old magic sleeps there. You've been, number, but someone showed me while we made the gate. He bit his lip. Someone from your world. Elle didn't respond directly, just kept walking faster. Something heavy pressed in her skull, a blurred whisper, neither Brenner nor the Mind Flayer, but close enough to make her twitch. Harry grabbed her sleeve instinctively when her pace faltered. Are you okay? She nodded stiffly. Noise, it never stops. Harry squeezed her hand. We'll make it quiet. The simplicity of his promise stilled her for a moment. No one had ever said we before. She found herself smiling, almost involuntarily. Following her sense of direction, they reached a grate behind an old bank and pried it open telekinetically. Cold air rushed up from below, stale, metallic. Harry shivered as they climbed down. Feels like ghosts. They're memories, she said. Not dangerous. They reached the bottom and found themselves in a brick chamber coated with moss. Water trickled from somewhere above. Elle touched the wall. It pulsed faintly, almost alive. It's sleeping. You mean the wall? Harry asked. She shook her head. Number the space. He tilted his head, confused, but instinctively mimicked her, placing his hand on the rough stone. The echo came faster this time, surging through the bricks like breath. Gold symbols shimmered midair, not alphabet, not runes, something that looked half circuit, half sigil. Elle whispered, it's old. The gold light crawled across the floor toward the center, forming a circle. Their joint energy seeped into it naturally, unasked. A rush of warmth spread through both of them, and then gravity bent sideways. They stood or floated in an invisible void, the circle beneath glowing like molten glass. Across the space, shadows unfolded into forms, 3 figures cloaked in dust, eyes luminous cyan. One spoke, the voice echoed through Elle's veins and Harry's teeth at once. You woke us. Elle squared her shoulders. You're part of this place. Another voice answered, deeper, sadder. We are what remains when magic dies and psychic light crosses its bones. Harry stepped half behind her, whispering, they sound like ghosts. We're echoes, said the third figure. Her arrival woke more than memory. Lightning flickered behind their words, holographic storms, simultaneous thoughts. Elle tried to ground herself, remembering Brenner's calm clinical tone, tried to sift meaning. Why us? The first figure tilted its head. You share one source. The power, she asked. The wound, he corrected softly. Different flesh, same cut. Before Elle could ask further, the gold beneath them collapsed into ripples. Reality reformed around them, brick, water, air again. The hallucination faded. Harry stared at her anxiously. They were real. Yes, she said, catching her breath, and they knew what? That our worlds bleed into each other. Up above at the van, Dorothy scribbled furiously on a parchment while Lewis conducted scans. That surge just came from directly below Charing Cross, she said. They opened something ancient. Lewis muttered, you said ancient like that's a security category. You have containment protocols for nuclear anomalies, she asked sweetly. We have them for mythic ones. What does your protocol say now? Pray, Dorothy said simply. Elle and Harry re-emerged into night street silence. Midnight crept close, neon light washed them gold. The city seemed half aware of something stirring beneath, electric pulses traveling in air. Harry's stomach growled, she smiled faintly. Hungry. He nodded. Steal fast, she said lightly. He looked uncertain. You mean use it? Yes. She guided him quietly toward a bakery whose window still glowed with residual heat. Glass first, she said. How do you open locks with your mind? I don't know how. You do. Feel metal. Ask. He frowned, then stared hard at the lock. The handle shimmered faintly, clicked once, and the door opened. His grin could have lit the street. Elle nodded approval. See. He whispered, laughing softly. Feels normal. It felt right. That was the thing. He wasn't forcing magic. He was magic. His existence resonated like music played on an untuned instrument discovered again. While they ate warm bread in shadow, she studied him under flickering light and thought, he's getting stronger. Maybe it wasn't teaching so much as sinking. Each time they touched, the feedback grew steadier. The world itself seemed to react, electric lights dimming, stray power lines humming like heartbeats, but peace, as always, was temporary. The sky flickered violet. A tremor ran through pavement. Down the street, people turned to look up as a bright tear opened high above buildings, visible only for a second before collapsing into nothing. But Elle saw it clearly. The gate, her breath froze. Brenner, she whispered, he's close. Harry looked toward the spot she stared at. That's your world, she nodded grimly. Now it's ours. Something huge rippled behind her sight, creatures half seen moving through dimensions too thin to hold them. She grabbed Harry's hand again, tightening grip beyond comfort. We move. As they stepped out, unseen eyes watched from an alley, a woman in a long coat who whispered into a wand that flared blue. Confirmed, she said to emptiness. Both targets alive, one psychic, one magical, they're together. She paused, then added quietly, and the resonance is growing. Later that night, deep beneath the surface, ginormous tunnels shivered as energy lines remapped London's ley grid, forming patterns unseen for centuries. Every magical sensor recorded spikes impossible to categorize. McGonagall herself woke abruptly miles away, whispering, "So it begins." And in Hawkins across the ocean, alarms blared in an underground complex as the same readings mirrored back, identical down to decimal points. Brenner smiled faintly, tracing graphs. "Found you," he murmured. In their small, stolen corner near the river, Elle and Harry huddled for warmth. Sleep came unevenly, dreams making walls breathe and air whisper again. Harry woke from nightmares of purple skies, Elle from white rooms. Somewhere between both dreams, their shared vision built a landscape neither world owned, a door half wood, half metal, shimmering between realities. It waited. Chapter 3. The shadow map. London's river fog rolled thick like smoke from a dying fire. Streetlights floated as blurred halos in the mist. 11 moved fast along the embankment, half dragging, half guiding Harry. Every instinct screamed they were being tracked now, not just through technology, but through air itself. By dawn, the rain had stopped. The city shifted from ghostly silence into waking noise. Buses, shouted greetings, the morning pulse. Elle slowed only when she reached the entrance to an old tunnel sealed by iron gates. Rust flaked under her touch. Harry peered through the bars. "You sure about this?" "Not really," she admitted, "but it's calling." He looked up in confusion, calling like a whisper under everything. She pressed her hand against metal, air shimmered faintly. "It knows us." The lock groaned against invisible pressure, bolts snapping one by one, and the gate swung open with a shriek. As they stepped inside, cool air wrapped around them, heavy with history. The walls were carved with faint markings, circles intersecting spirals, elegant yet alien. Harry ran a finger along one. "Feels alive." "It is," she said. "Magic sleeps, psychic energy doesn't. Down here they mix." Deeper inside, the path split into multiple tunnels, most half-flooded. They followed the driest one, shadows stretching endlessly ahead. Occasionally, Harry's hand glowed faint green against the rough stone. Automatic reaction. The symbols answered him, lighting faintly in rhythm. "Looks like stars," he whispered. Elle studied the illuminated shapes. They resembled constellations, but not from any sky she recognized. "Maybe it's a map of where. That's what we're finding out." Unseen above them, across the river, the magical surveillance team scrambled. Dorothy Wren was first to recognize the pattern appearing on her layscope, an ancient spell diagram aligning with psychic resonance. She twitched her wand, the holographic projection solidified. "The resonance fields forming a shadow map," she murmured. "The kids aren't stumbling blindly, the tunnel's guiding them." Lewis frowned at her arcane jargon. "Guiding them where?" "To the convergence point," she said grimly. "If they reach it, there won't be walls left between worlds." Down in the tunnels, Harry began feeling changes before Elle did, the air turning heavy, electric, thrumming like heartbeat thunder. He stumbled, catching her sleeve. "Something moving." She stopped. "Where?" Everywhere, tension rippled through the ground. The echoes grew louder, not footsteps but scraping, as if something too many-legged crawled inside the stone. Then the wall itself split open. From the crack poured slime-black mist that condensed into shape, humanoid outlines of shadow. Not quite creatures, not quite illusions. Eye sockets glowed white-hot. Elle reacted instantly, throwing her hand up. Power blasted forward, scattering some, but others simply reformed. "They're not from Hawkins," she said sharply. Harry tried instinctively to defend, raising his palm like he'd done with metal. The light inside him surged stronger than ever, green bending toward gold. Shockwave hit the tunnel, the creatures dissolving into vapor under the force. The silence afterward trembled. Elle stared at him. That wasn't magic. What was it? Something new. He looked terrified, but not of the creatures, of himself. "Did I hurt you?" She shook her head slowly. "You changed me." Both fell quiet. The tunnel lights flickered back faintly, warm like candle glow. She could feel his power still humming through her veins, shared resonance. Each time they fought together, boundaries blurred. His magic shaped her energy, her mind amplified his intent. They were no longer two systems, more like a circuit. She whispered, "When we move, the world moves." Harry didn't know whether to smile or panic. "Is that good?" "It's everything," she said. Their path led them down a spiral staircase made of worn stone. At the bottom, the tunnel widened into a vaulted chamber flooded ankle-deep. Green luminescence floated over water, not light but memory, glowing images skimming surfaces. Elle crouched, touching one ripple. The water reacted instantly, forming visions, fragments of a castle, faces, broken voices whispering in countless languages. Harry watched, entranced. "It's showing us something." The source, she guessed. This place remembers. The visions sharpened into clearer shapes, people wielding wands beside others using pure telekinesis. Experiments, she saw sparks merging, reality cracking. Then one final image froze, a woman with red hair standing beside a man in a white lab coat, their hands clasped over a newborn child wrapped in light. Harry whispered, trembling. That's my mum, Elle inhaled. That means it's mine too. They looked at each other, realization dawning together. Lily Potter wasn't just magical, she crossed between dimensions, merging ancient magic with Brenner's psychic program. Their bond wasn't curse or coincidence, it was by design. Harry dropped to his knees, stunned. She was part of the lab, maybe before it became hell. Elle's voice was flat. Maybe she helped make me. They let the silence stretch until even the water seemed to hold its breath. Above them, faint mechanical echoes rang, not supernatural this time. Boots, equipment, Elle's head snapped up. They're here. Agents poured through the staircase, cloaked figures and tactical suits mixed together. The rare alliance of science and sorcery had arrived. Lewis shouted orders, Dorothy raised protective wards. Don't harm them, contain the energy. Not happening, Elle muttered, eyes already glowing. Power surged around her like invisible fire. The air broke apart. Harry, fueled by instinct and fear and newfound anger, joined her, their combined resonance flaring blinding white gold. Agent's shield spells shattered immediately. Dorothy stepped forward anyway, voice firm, wand carved with runes glowing blue. 11, Harry, listen to me, you're breaking both worlds. Elle didn't answer with words. The water rose like walls at her command, swirling upward around the chamber. Harry's magic ignited within that vortex, twisting into symbols midair, the same pattern from the tunnel walls now floating free. Dorothy gasped. They're completing the map. Lewis yelled. What does that mean? It means the convergence is real. As the vortex reached its peak, the shadows returned, same specters they'd fought earlier, now multiplied, crawling through the chamber's edges. The agents panicked, magic bolts fizzed uselessly against them. Elle turned in fury, voice echoing raw. Enough, everything exploded outward, a pulse that tore through space, knocking everyone unconscious except her and Harry. When quiet returned, the chamber no longer looked like London's tunnel. Stone had transformed to glass. Rain fell sideways across starless horizons. Reality folded. Elle steadied Harry as he stood. We crossed. Where? Between. Outside the tunnel doorway now hung two skies overlapping, one bright, one dusky. They had entered liminal territory, where shadow became geometry. Creatures flocked beneath twin suns, some shimmering, some crawling, all drawn toward their energy. Elle centered her mind and whispered, You ready? Harry's hand trembled but reached for hers. Always. Together they stepped forward, child warriors inside wrong heaven, powers blazing against uncertainty. The convergence had begun, and far away in the Ministry and in Hawkins, alarms confirmed it simultaneously. Chapter 4. The Mind in the Wand. The sky here didn't obey normal color. It bled gold into blue, lit from both directions at once, horizon curving inward like a reflection trapped inside water. 11 stood nervously at the boundary. They had fallen into something that hummed between existence, a limbo neither Hawkins nor magic ever defined. Harry's breath steamed though the air wasn't cold. It feels alive. Elle nodded. Everything does, even time. When she reached out, the clouds rippled, responding like skin to touch. Beneath their feet, ground shimmered glassy and translucent, showing vague shadows of London beneath, as though they stood between two superimposed realities. In the distance, dark towers stretched up, then folded backward. She felt energy flowing through them. The whole place operated on pattern, pulse resonances, and invisible pathways. She realized the shadow map had been leading them here, the center point where psychic and magic overlapped completely. Harry whispered, Will we go back? Her muscle twitched involuntarily. Only when we understand this. They began walking. Everything responded to their presence. Where their steps touched, light flared across surfaces, forming circuitry with sigils intertwined, design bridging electricity and emotion. They realized walking wasn't just movement, it was activation. Near an outcropping shaped like crystal bone, Harry spotted an object half buried in silver soil. He crouched, brushing debris aside. It wasn't rock, it was wood and metal fused, humming faintly. He held it up. A wand, but unlike others, they could sense consciousness inside. A faint, hesitating pulse, so similar to their own resonance it almost felt alive. Elle blinked. You shouldn't. Before she could finish, the wand reacted, shooting a soft current that connected to his wrist. The ground shook lightly beneath them. Harry gasped but didn't drop it. It's talking. What does it say? He frowned, concentrating. Not words, feelings. It knows me. Elle, he added quietly, it wants us. That phrasing made her freeze. The wand warmed rapidly until its light matched the frequency of both their pulses. The air twisted, images forming, memories embedded inside it, like stored data. They saw corridors lined with mirrors, scientists in robes and coats working side by side, the same figures Lily and Brenner appeared with. The wand wasn't merely crafted, it was designed during that collaboration. Harry's grip tightened. She made this. Elle's throat felt small, then it's meant for both of us. When he aimed it experimentally, it didn't release the typical spark of spellcasting. Instead, it unleashed raw energy, no incantation necessary. The wand converted their joint resonance into structured magic, a perfect amplifier bridging psychic control and magical intent. The blast sliced through the surface ahead, carving tunnels where none existed. Ventured through the new opening. The interior led deeper into the convergence zone where physics bent softer. They could walk through transparent corridors with shifting horizons, each turn revealing more ancient design. Runic pillars floated mid-space, covered with formulas half scientific, half divine. Harry brushed symbols gently. Looks like math. Elle read out loud, emotion equals energy motion. She smirked dryly. Whoever wrote this liked riddles. She tried connecting to the structure psychically. The response flooded her head, immediate sensory overload. Thoughts, thousands from various times and people. She stumbled, clutching her forehead. Too much. Harry steadied her. Let me help, she nodded weakly. Link. When their hands joined, the noise settled into a stable field. Together they filtered sizes and data until one meaningful thread appeared, an instruction, simple, ancient, 2 keys, 1 door. Harry whispered, us. Before Elle could interpret, the ground vibrated violently. The towers in distance lit crimson. Something huge moved inside the convergence, shapes crawling from liquid horizon. Entities of thought rather than flesh, guardian remnants hostile to disruption. They came fast. Elle shoved Harry aside, instinct taking over. The wand in his hand pulsed harder, responding to panic. The light shot out in multiple beams, forming a barrier. Her power instantly merged with it, strengthening structure, making solid shield like glass infused with electricity. The creatures slammed against it, screeching soundless. Their surfaces were reflections, each distorted with fragments of memory. She glimpsed Brenner's shadow among them briefly, whispering, find her. Anger ripped through her like electric fire. She screamed. The barrier exploded outward instead of holding, turning offensive. Shockwaves flattened the horizon. The monsters turned into liquid and vanished. Harry dropped to one knee, panting. The wand dimmed. We're too strong, he said quietly. We break everything. Elle knelt beside him, wiping blood from her nose. Let it break, we replace what's left. He looked at her strangely. You sound like someone who built worlds. She half smiled. Maybe I did. Across realities, both the Ministry and Hawkins simultaneously registered quantum ruptures. Dumbledore himself, awakened midnight, refused to dismiss it as accident. 2 forces wielding creation without boundary, he told McGonagall grimly. That is no spell, it's evolution. In Hawkins, Brenner stared at screens flashing mirrored patterns. They merged the frequencies, he whispered, which means controllable. He smirked faintly. Begin gate expansion protocol. Back inside the convergence chamber, Harry had laid the wand on ground to recover. Its light shimmered weak but sent rhythmic pulses through the floor, each pulse revealing pathways outward from core, a network connecting back to both worlds. Elle studied it intensely, its showing directions. Where? To the ends of power, she murmured, where this started and where it spills back. But we opened the door already, Harry said. Then maybe we have to close it before they follow. The silence broke again, not with monsters, not footsteps, but whispers in sync with their own voices. At first they thought echoes. Then they realized the whispers were independent, repeating words neither had spoken. They turned, saw faint holograms forming, outlines identical to themselves, shadows speaking in reversed tones. Harry stepped closer cautiously. Is that us? Yes, Elle said quietly, different versions. Their echoes watched, mouths moving. One whisper translated clear across the distortion. If you seal the door, you seal yourself. Her stomach twisted. The wand between them flared violently, drawing power uncontrollably. Their reflections reached forward, merging momentarily into air. Elle grabbed Harry's hand, grounding him with mental pressure. Don't listen, she hissed. They want control. The reflections whispered again, louder this time. One must stay behind. Harry's scowl hardened. Not happening. Elle agreed immediately. We moved together. The chamber trembled violently as the 2 realities rubbed raw edges. Vortexes reopened overhead. The convergence zone began folding inward. Harry raised the wand, determination pure. How do we stop it? Elle placed her palm over his, matching resonance. We decide who builds next. Then with synchronized focus, they poured joint energy through the wand, not resisting collapse but reprogramming it. Psychic control turned alignment rather than defense, magic structured flow rather than chaos. The result wasn't destruction but redirection. The world reshaped itself around them. They fell weightless, tumbling through blazing light to solid ground again. The smell of damp earth jarred reality back. They were in ruins, ancient stones scattered with moss, broken statues, distant bell toll echoing faintly. Harry blinked. Where? Elle turned slowly. The skyline was London's. It was deeper, older. She looked up at recognizable spires twisted by weather and age. Hogwarts, she murmured. But older than the one he'd eventually know, an archaic edition existing beneath modern time, the same heartbeat yet untouched. Harry grinned despite exhaustion. We made it. Elle's expression tightened. Or we've been brought. She looked at the wand still glowing faintly. It's pulling us somewhere. They followed its summons until they reached a small inner courtyard half buried under ivy. The wand shook lightly like it wanted release. Harry extended it to stone pedestal nearby. When contact connected, the pedestal burst into pattern, runes circling outward, revealing something Ultratech embedded within spellwork, devices neither world invented yet. Elle whispered a memory beacon. It activated instantly, projecting recorded voice. Lily Potter's gentle tone filled air. If you're hearing this, my son lives, and my daughter of the other realm has found him. You are two halves, you carry hope and danger equal. Protect each other, don't hide, don't limit your light. Harry's eyes shone wet. Elle swallowed hard. She knew both worlds would meet. The recording flickered out. Silence sank deep. After a long stillness, Elle said quietly, "We're not accidents." Harry nodded, gripping her hand. "Then let's act like it." In the distance, a storm gathered over the castle ruins. Magic and science thunder blended. The wand pulsed stronger, its mind alive now, voice whispering softly inside them 3 words over and over: gate, merge, rise. The night ahead wouldn't wait. And as lightning cracked across twin realities, Brenner opened his own portal simultaneously across the ocean. 2 forces now raced toward creation. Chapter 5, Fire in the Ministry. The first explosion didn't feel magical. It sounded like thunder trapped inside corridors, rolling down stone until chandeliers rattled. Midnight shattered into chaos at the British Ministry of Magic. By the time the wizards reached the source, the security hall golden light was crawling like floodwater across floor tiles. The energy wasn't pure magic nor elemental. It pulsed at a frequency. A leak. Dorothy Wren arrived first, wand at her side, coat half burned from earlier field work. She barked orders to panicked Aurors. Containment field, do it now. But the floors refused containment. Symbols formed by themselves against marble, identical to those glowing in London's tunnels the night the children had vanished. Her pulse raced. They're inside the network. Far below, Elle and Harry weren't hiding anymore. They had followed the wand's directional pull across the border between old and new Hogwarts, down through hidden stairways sealed centuries ago. What they found was a doorway unlike any other, etched with runes and circuitry fused together. Elle touched it. "This runs under the ministry." Harry frowned. "You know that. I feel the pattern." She pushed psychic pressure into the runes. The structure opened inward, revealing spiral descent covered in shifting luminescence. "Down there," she said, "the power lines meet every magical node in Britain. Like electric wires," Harry observed. "Exactly, but older." They descended. The tunnel dropped them into an observation chamber, giant crystal windows showing flowing light rivers passing through great pipes beneath the city. A magical power grid, unseen by ordinary wizards. At its center, 2 dominant streams intersected, one blue, one red gold. Elle recognized resonance instantly. "That's us," she whispered. Harry stared, awe overtaking fear. "Our energy S in everything." "Yes. Since we opened the convergence, the fields blended," she explained. "Magic S starting to behave like thought." He looked down at his hands, uncertain. "That means they'll blame us. They can try." Outside, alarms began echoing, Dolar's Umbridge shrieking commands across the upper chambers. Wizards scrambled, sending sealing spells like nets. Inside the crystal windows, fire rose, not flame but overloaded magic, turning pure light to inferno. Elle's eyes flickered white. "They're choking the network." Harry's voice trembled. "We have to stop them." Back upstairs, Dumbledore arrived amidst panic. The atrium's fountain had melted, golden statues flowed like wax. Flames danced liquid around protective wards. Dorothy met him halfway, bruised and gasping. "They've triggered resonance. Whatever those kids did, it's altering magic itself." Dumbledore's expression hardened. "And Brenner's people? Your guess is as good as mine, but the gates match Hawkins' data." He nodded grimly. "Then this fire isn't ours entirely." Elle and Harry stepped into central control, the Nexus core. Dozens of crystal pylons connected through bands of enchanted metal. Elle sensed minds outside, hundreds reading, reacting, fearful. She shut them out. Their panic feeds distortion. Harry clenched his fists. "What do? We stabilize, or we burn London." She lifted her hand, channeling deep psychic focus, not as weapon, but command. The pylons resonated instantly, glowing steady. Harry raised his wand, directing magic flow like river guides. Together they formed balance between electrical and mystical circuits. The ground shuddered under stress. For a moment it seemed to work, until shadow thunder erupted, ripples across dimensions. A rift opened above the compound's ceiling, blue light spilling through. Scientists and wizards alike looked up as a familiar face appeared behind the gatewall projection, Brenner himself. His voice carried across static and spellcraft. "My children." Elle froze, fury replacing fatigue. "Number Brenner smiled, thin as paper. I gave you purpose. You've proven power's unity. Bring the boy. We finish what we began. Harry stepped forward instinctively, defiant. She's not yours. Brenner's tone sharpened. All miracles belong to acquisition. Elle's telemetry erupted. The entire nexus dimmed then flared. You don't own anything anymore. And with that scream, she broke the containment completely. Energy raced of its own will. Above, the ministry ground floor disintegrated into pure luminosity. Spells fractured. Portkeys fizzed unstable. Wizards fled across floored corridors as glass panels melted midair. Dumbledore watched, calm inside storm, whispering almost to himself, so this is evolution. Fire rose in sheets. Through flame, Elle and Harry emerged from below, walking upward as the structure trembled around them. Both were glowing, not consumed, but transformed. The wand at Harry's side blazed white gold. Their joined strength made reality bend around every step. Aurors aimed their wands instinctively, shouting scattered spells. They failed. Bolts bounced back harmlessly, absorbed by the field around the two children. Elle raised her hand, stopping time momentarily. Her voice came in deep calm. You attack what you can't control. We are control. Harry looked ahead. We don't have to hurt them, she nodded, eyes softening slightly. Then help me show them. He focused through the wand, energy curved outward not as destruction but transformation. Flames bent into light ribbons coating shattered marble, restructuring surfaces, turning chaos into equilibrium. The destruction reversed itself, becoming beauty. Everyone stared in stunned silence. Dumbledore stepped forward from the crowd. That is no mere spell, he said quietly. What are you? Elle met his gaze evenly. The future you buried. Harry added in fierce confidence, and we're taking it back. From the sky beyond glass, Brenner's gate widened. His soldiers arrived, technicians with harnesses glowing neon green, wielding magnetic stabilizers ready to capture. They fired beams merging technology and old spellwork. Elle grabbed Harry's arm. Inside field, the wand reacted automatically. Both children pivoted sideways into phasing energy, a shimmering dome. Shots ricocheted, striking walls. Magical defenses fought machine precision. The ministry turned battlefield. Elle's focus shifted psychic frequency. She projected command outward, collapsing attackers' consciousness momentarily. Sleep. Bodies fell mid-action, comatose within seconds. Harry gaped at her simplicity. You didn't even touch them. Power's persuasion. Feels brutal, feels necessary. Lightning flashed again, Brenner pushing deeper through the gate now visible in the atrium ceiling. His silhouette hovered like God. Return 11, that's your designation. I'll forgive this rebellion. Elle laughed once, full fury. Keep your forgiveness. She sent a pulse directly through his channel, collapsing portions of the gate. Sparks rained. Brenner staggered backward into Hawkins' side lab, alarms screaming. Technicians trapped behind flickering fields scrambled around him. The mirror between dimensions rippled red. Harry turned to Elle. I can help. He lifted the wand. Energy from both worlds merged again, creating symmetrical patterns. The resulting blast finally shattered control. The gate imploded like collapsing lungs, no further access. Silence swam through wreckage. Smoke threaded faintly under rafters but no longer burned. The ministry stood bruised yet intact. Dumbledore approached slowly, edges of his robe scorched. You closed it. Elle nodded. For now. He looked at them, the girl bleeding faintly from her nose, the boy exhausted yet glowing. And what will you do now, children who carry power equal to God's? Harry answered first, steady. We'll learn what it means without cages. Dumbledore regarded them, unreadable yet filled with fascination. Every world trembles because it has found its mirror, he said. Neither magic nor mind will survive unchanged. Elle's voice softened. Then we rebuild the rules. Outside, dawn broke red. Dorothy Wren surveyed ashes and rising smoke. In her hand, a report already forming, one phrase repeated through shaken realization. The child pair wielded resonance equal to creation. She whispered almost reverently, and they're just beginning. Across the ocean, Hawkins' lab lay half destroyed from the gate's collapse. Brenner stood bruised, glaring at monitors that now reflected nothing but static. He smiled, eventually anyway. If power can rewrite reality, he muttered, then failure still teaches dominance. Behind him, new gates began forming automatically. He wasn't done. Far above the ministry ruins, Elle and Harry stood on the observation balcony as smoke lifted into sun. London stretched alive again. Air shimmered faint, subtle, the convergence not gone, only quieter. Harry leaned against railing. We won't hide, will we? She looked at him, resolute. Never. Their joined fingers glowed faintly, the wand resonating quietly at their side like heartbeat. Fire had taught them fear meant nothing when destiny itself answered. They were ready for war. Chapter 6. The Blood Key. London hadn't entirely healed. Smoke still drifted from blocks where invisible pressure had folded the streets. Magic ran in unpredictable currents now, sparks cracking even from ordinary lamps, spells misfiring for distant witches. Something fundamental had changed, and every living force could feel it. Harry and Eleven stayed hidden long enough for the city to stop glowing at night. They slept inside an abandoned post office where letters centuries old still spilled from shelves. It smelled of rain and memories. Elle's nose wasn't bleeding anymore. That surprised her more than anything. Every past effort left damage. Now the power inside her built steadiness instead of fracture. Either she was adapting, or Harry was balancing her field without knowing it. At cross-legged on the dusty floor, wand twirling idly between fingers, frowning in thought. All this time I thought magic was separate. Wands, words, rules, but it's just energy like yours. I watched him carefully, not just mine, it's ours now. He looked up at that, the way she said ours like statement rather than comfort. Outside, dawn smeared pale light across broken windows. Harry whispered, I keep remembering her voice. My mum, that beacon. You think that was a message or a plan? Both, Elle said. She didn't leave it by accident. By noon, they decided to search. The wand's heartbeat had turned erratic, pulsing faster whenever the air pressure changed. It was guiding again, this time toward an address neither recognized. Godric's Hollow, a name humming through Elle's psychic memory as if pulled from Harry's subconscious. They traveled quietly, trains half-functioning, magical disturbances causing electric surges on every platform. No one paid attention to two kids moving with purpose. Godric's Hollow smelled of history and silent grief. The ruins of the Potter home stood quiet under trees. Someone had kept it preserved, protected by charms. Simple beauty disguised tremendous memory. Harry walked straight to the gate. She lived here, Elle nodded faintly, and died here, but look at the field. The air shimmered faintly blue around the cottage, like surface tension holding something inside. She touched it psychically, no resistance, just gentle welcome. They entered without break. Inside, dust sparkled as if time itself avoided decay. The wand flared violently upon crossing threshold. A beam of gold projected toward fireplace, revealing inscriptions under soot. Elle crouched. Blood key, she read quietly. It says that. Harry leaned closer. The runes translated internally, visible no longer as words but emotion. They pointed inward, toward basement hidden under floorboards. Elle pried up wood using mind pressure. Air hissed up in faint golden mist. Underneath lay an old silver chest, half machinery, half spellwork, etched with DNA runes and magnetic locks. The wand hummed matching tone. Harry's voice broke soft. She left something. When Elle lifted the lid, both flinched as radiant energy shot upward. A holographic cylinder appeared, floating above contents, blood suspended inside liquid light, swirling slowly. Genetic material. The projection whispered automatically in Lily's voice. If you have found this, the experiment survived. Your link proves balance. What was separated must return whole. Harry stepped forward, trembling. It's her blood. Elle felt recognition ripple through body like static. Our blood. Because within that holographic vial swam dual resonance, gene signatures identical between Harry and Eleven. The same experiment's code. Their existence wasn't coincidence, it was replication. Lily's voice continued. The blood key opens truth. Two carriers must unite it willingly. It will rewrite the rift that divides mind and magic. Elle whispered, rewrite. Harry blinked, tears. You think that means fix the world? It means change definition of power, Elle murmured softly. End the separation. Across the globe, systems trembled again. Hawkins' readings spiked. The ministry's sensors registered identical surges. Brenner received flashes that confirmed genetic code crosslink. His experiments never destroyed, only evolved. He smirked. She stole my labs to make gods. Around him, scientists prepared containment fields. The plan, replicate convergence using siblings rather than gods under control. The blood key will be mine, he said quietly. Inside the hollow basement, Harry picked up the vial carefully. The fluid reacted immediately, merging faintly with wand glow. How do we use it? Elle felt the vibration, two frequencies harmonizing into structure. It needs focus, trust. Harry frowned. Trust. It's not technology, it's choice. As soon as she said it, lines formed through air, splitting room into fragments, blue light curling, whispering voices around them, chants, circuitry, equations, the world itself listening. Harry's instinct told him to lift the wand toward the blood. The collision was instantaneous and immense, every color inverted. For seconds they floated inside non-space, shouting without sound. Elle felt every heartbeat in the world at once, fear, love, grief, hunger, then it aligned. When they landed, the laboratory basement looked different. Air-heavy, metal-melted, floor-burned pattern of two circles intersecting, one psychic wave, one magical rune, a symbol engraved forever. Harry stared, voice shaking. We did it, maybe, Elle answered, or we started it. The result rippled. Across Britain, isolated magical nodes stabilized. Wizards noticed spells casting faster. Across America, Hawkins' readings normalized. No more uncontrolled rifts, but along with peace came awakening. Machines powered themselves. Ghosts whispered louder. The world started learning from each other. And yet someone was watching from the edges of Godric's Hollow. Dorothy Wren again, wand and communication crystal in hand. She saw the golden surge, recorded data, whispered to allied operative far across ocean. Blood key activated. Level godlike. Do we approach? Lewis asked over radio. Not unless we want the planet rewritten, she whispered. Elle looked at Harry afterwards, both sitting exhausted against ruined fireplace. What do you feel? He smiled faintly, glowing residue swirling around hands. Everything. Scary, beautiful. Their laughter broke through tension. Light flickered against broken glass overhead like sunrise previewing miracles. In that fragile calm, Elle spoke slowly. They'll come again, Brenner, others. Harry nodded softly. Let them. He held the wand loosely. It shimmered pale amber now rather than gold. We're not just power, we're memory. We'll protect what's ours. Outside, snow began to fall gently, a mix of magic and physical weather folding perfectly, worlds synchronizing piece by piece. The experiment had become evolution. Across the ocean, Brenner stood before new containment gate turning deep red. She thinks rewriting ends the game, he said softly, but every code can be hacked. He turned to his assistant. Prepare extraction. We take her blood. His grin was the kind that promised war. Far above Godric's Hollow, Elle and Harry sensed faint tremor under peace. They looked at each other without surprise. He's not done, she said. Harry answered, neither are we. The wand flickered again, now displaying newly formed symbol, twin serpents circling infinity. The blood key attached itself invisibly to their DNA, linking them permanently through shared resonance. A quiet wind brushed through ruined roof. It whispered like Lily's final blessing. Chapter 7. The Rift. The headmaster pretended calm, but even Dumbledore's composure sweated cracks. He knew the source wasn't dark magic or misplaced spell. It was a shift in the ground, a pulse from the rift deep beneath foundations, older than any school, any wand, any name. And somewhere within those catacombs, Harry Potter and 11 walked toward it. The door opened itself when they approached. Carved stone slid aside like breathing flesh. The air hit them immediately, not stale or cold but dense, weighted with thought. Harry squinted through his glasses. Feels alive. Elle nodded slightly. Everything that remembers you is. You mean the castle? She ran a hand across the wall, sensing vibration between spells. It's aware. Down here even time felt bent. Lanterns burned without fire. Staircases sloped inward like questions. Symbols carved into surfaces shifted when watched too long. Maps, stars, designs that reassembled whenever she blinked. Harry grinned despite tension. This beats the Dursleys' cupboard. She half smirked. Worlds bigger than doors now. They followed tunnels until sound faded completely. Then a whisper. At first Elle thought it was memory leaking from her own head, but the tone belonged to neither Brenner nor ghosts. It spoke like fractured thought rebounding off itself. Come closer. Harry swallowed hard. Did you? Yes, she said softly. It grew louder. 2 keys, 2 hearts. Come closer. The wand shivered faintly against Harry's wrist, glowing amber gold. It knows about the blood key. Or it is the blood key, Elle murmured. We're inside whatever it guards. When they reached the end of the passage, the wall opened onto a cavern so vast it swallowed expectation. Stone pillars rose into mist. Light came not from torches but from the air itself, a soft aurora rippling in green and violet. In its center hovered an immense fracture, a glowing wound suspended mid-space, shaped roughly like elliptical scar. The rift. Elle stepped forward without hesitation. It's stable now. Harry touched her sleeve, nervous. You think Brenner is still trying to open it? He doesn't understand. It's not door, it's mirror. It shows what lives between. He frowned. Then what's waiting inside? Us, she said simply. The moment she spoke, the rift reacted. Light condensed, gravity shifted. The cavern transformed into reflection, endless copies stretching outward, each showing different versions of them. One older, one wounded, one wilder. Echoes from possibilities. Harry froze. Are those futures? Her voice thickened. Choices. They watched one version where Harry alone faced Brenner and fell, another where Elle remained captive forever, another where both turned gods but lost humanity. The rift whispered again, gentle yet merciless. All power requires direction. Elle clenched her fists. We already chose. Did you? The rift answered through endless echoes. You built creation without anchor. Harry's voice shook slightly. If we anchor it with ourselves, won't that kill us? Or change everything? Elle replied. Same difference. She reached forward. The light didn't burn. It folded around her fingers like curiosity. It wants to rewrite boundary. Harry took a breath so deep it felt like prayer. Then we rewrite. They stepped together into the rift. Instantly, reality dissolved to code and emotion. No color, only pulses. Every thought manifested physically, memories turned architecture. Elle saw Hawkins' lab collapsed beside Hogwarts corridors, flickering between versions. Brenner's voice whispered like insects. She forced herself forward. Harry felt it too, the pull toward control, structure, hierarchy. Power begging for master. No more cages, he whispered fiercely. No more bosses. His rage bled through light, transforming pulses into solidity. Elle focused beside him, amplifying clarity. Their joint resonance stabilized dimension. The rift glowed steady for first time in centuries. Through collapsing distortion, figures emerged, silhouettes shaped of combined magic and machine. One was Lily Potter, faint like dream, beside her, another scientist whose face Elle couldn't escape even in darkness. Brenner but not human, reflections. Lily's voice said softly, balance demands meeting both sources. The Brenner reflections spoke with controlled authority. You are evolution and collapse in same breath, decide what the world should be. Elle stared at the figure, half memory, half system. You lost the right to decide. He watched her coolly, then prove you're more than weapon. The rift pulsed, testing. Harry raised the wand, Elle raised her mind. Their energy merged and shot through mirrors, collapsing thousands until none but true world remained. The Brenner reflection cracked apart. The air roared silently. Elle gasped, pain slicing through skull from overload. Harry grabbed her shoulders, grounding her psychic tornado with his focus. Magic wrapped around her consciousness until both stabilized. She whispered, we open new path. And the rift responded. Light exploded outward, swallowing the cavern, then folding into spiral portal leading upward. They floated back to solid stone out of the rift's core, older but unbroken. Above them, ancient runes changed shape, rewriting themselves spontaneously. Harry looked upward. What did we do? Elle traced one rune with trembling fingers. We made it breathe. All around them, magic stabilized. The castle walls hummed consistent rhythm. Hogwarts had merged with psychic frequency, alive in new symphony. Candles flared, portraits blinked awake, whispering languages incomprehensible yet warm. Harry exhaled. We didn't destroy everything. No, Elle said softly. Replace destruction with motion. But their calm didn't last. A shimmer at far end of cavern flickered back open, the same gate Brenner had used, now remade through reflection rather than lab. Outstepped his physical self, older, bleeding but grinning, surrounded by soldiers, half machine, half wizard fusion born from stolen resonance. He greeted them without hesitation. Congratulations, I watched your success from experiments still humming across oceans. Elle's eyes hardened. You never stop. He smiled. Neither do you. That's why you're perfect. With gesture, two hybrid guards raised their weapons, staffs of metal and runes sparkling deadly. Children grow best under discipline, Brenner said. Harry lifted his wand, voice dark. You want discipline, take ours. The battle began instantly, explosions of flux blending spells with kinetic telekinesis. Magic bolts became sound waves, psychic pulses twisted gravity. Elle moved like lightning, flicking gestures invisible yet catastrophic. Soldiers fell before finishing aim. Brenner fought with device of his own, wristband amplifying dimensional resonance. He drew power from rift fragments still open behind him, sending spikes of energy. The cavern shook violently. Harry saw the wand flicker unstable. He's feeding directly from the rift, Elle shouted, cut link. She focused, compressing space, sealing entrance mentally. Brenner screamed as feedback slammed him backward, his machine overloaded, sparks raining. Harry pivoted strength through wand, summoning raw synergy. They fired combined pulse strong enough to erase shadow residue. The rift closed. Brenner dropped, gasping, half-body petrified by magical reaction. He looked up at them, voice rasping bitterly. You can't save them, division's nature. Harry knelt near him, gazing steady. Then we'll change nature. He raised wand once, soft golden light enveloped Brenner, no pain this time, only immobilized silence. Elle nodded approvingly. Mercy, she murmured. Justice, Harry corrected gently. They left him there between light and dark, fading slowly into memory. Above ground, as dawn broke, thunder rolled across clear sky, dimensional echoes marking the rift's final closure. Every magical instrument stilled. Hawkins' lab systems went dark forever. The convergence had matured, no longer rupture but union. I watched sun scatter across spires. Feels quiet. Harry smiled faintly, for now. She looked sideways. You realize we just rewrote rules of reality. He shrugged, humor despite exhaustion. Always did things differently. Her laughter echoed softly, fragile and bright against ancient stone. Far away, Dumbledore wrote one line in his private journal before sealing it magically. The children have moved beyond prophecy. Back in the cavern, still humming faintly, Brenner's body turned to dust, absorbed by newly stabilized rift residue, leaving behind only luminous outline etched forever in rock. It flickered once, whispering faint digital residue, evolution complete. Outside, the wind carried new resonance. Magic and psychic phenomena no longer opposed, they intertwined. Animals sensed thought. Humans dreamed consciously, reality had grown complicated. And awake, El looked at Harry with unspoken understanding. "Now they'll come asking what we made," he said firmly. "Let them ask." She took his hand, "But don't let them cage it." He nodded, smiling, tired but certain. Never. The horizon shimmered gold and white like gates, no longer barriers but beginnings. Somewhere universes smiled back. Chapter 8, Labyrinth of Echoes. They expected peace to sound like silence. It didn't. The air itself had memory now, every sound repeated seconds later, each echo carrying emotion. Wind sang names they hadn't spoken. Water rippled backwards. The world rebounded, reflecting consciousness like a mirror half shattered. Harry and Elle stepped carefully through the ruins beneath the old ministry, the ground where the rift sealed itself. No monsters remained, no soldiers. Only echoes. Harry brushed dust off his glasses. "Do you think it's safe?" Elle's mouth twitched. "I stopped believing in safe." He smirked faintly. Useful belief. They had come searching for what the rift left behind, the fragments Brenner hadn't controlled. Dorothy, now unofficial ally, had given coordinates in whispered hologram, liminal corridors, fractured time, don't stay long. What she didn't say was why. Elle stepped first, boots crunching glass ground still shimmering with light residue. Psychic resonance filled space, not overpowering but constant hum beneath reality. Feels like it's waiting. Harry frowned. Waiting for what? She didn't answer. They followed the hum into the chamber ahead. Inside stretched corridors of mirrors, tall, opaque, breathing faint blue fog. Hundreds lined the walls, some cracked, some clear. In each one faint shapes moved, not reflections, but ghosts of probability, versions of them flickering. Harry froze mid-step. This is impossible. Elle glanced at him sideways. It's memory space. You mean their thought forms, she explained softly. The rift recorded everything we could become. Each step activated mirrors again. They saw a version of themselves laughing among other children at Hogwarts, another fighting each other as enemies. One where Harry grew alone, godlike and detached, hovering over burning cities. One where 11 aged gracefully into peace but kept eyes hollow. Elle reached toward one, fingertips brushing cool surface. The mirror felt her back. It didn't just reflect, it reached, sending emotion through her nerves. A pulse. She gasped, pulling hand away. Harry caught her wrist instinctively. What did it do? She steadied breath. It remembered the lab. Pain crept behind her eyes before she could block it. Every scream, every sterile order, every night strapped to metal flashed again in sensory overload. The mirror had given it back, too clearly. Harry immediately wrapped an arm across her shoulders, grounding her emotion through resonance link. "Stop looking," he whispered. "You gave it enough." Her pulse slowed. "It's not about looking, it's about understanding why this place still hurts." Further down, mirrors formed intersections. Light bent weirdly between them, corridors rearranged like living maze. They realized this wasn't physical space, this was psychic magic labyrinth built from every mind's residue after convergence. "Labyrinth of Echoes," Harry muttered. Elle nodded, grim amusement flickering. Dorothy always names things dramatically. They moved deeper until mirrors started speaking, faint whispers forming actual words. One called Elle's name, every syllable perfect but trembling. 11. She turned sharply. In that reflection stood Brenner, younger, gentler, hand extended. "You learned well," he said softly. "You could make everything right." Elle clenched her fists. "You're not real." The reflection smiled. "I never needed to be." Harry stepped forward instinctively between them. "She doesn't need your approval." The Brenner echo vanished, dissolving into dust, but the chamber changed. Lights flickered faster, showing new mirrors, Dursley's yelling, Voldemort sneering, Hawkins' lab monitors flashing test result. Harry blinked hard. "It's showing worst memories." Elle murmured, testing stability. They faced illusions full throttle, each reflected pain shared through resonance, each one pulled emotion stronger. Harry saw his parents' deaths replay, then twisted versions where he killed them. Elle saw herself destroying Hawkins, hurting friends. The mirrors whispered blame unending. Harry shouted finally, voice cracking, "Enough!" His magic surged, short-circuiting the illusions. Mirrors shattered, shards scattered light like rain. Breath shook through him, equal parts fury and power. Elle approached slowly. "Feel better?" He nodded weakly, managing a grin. "Glass therapy." She laughed softly, the sound genuine, defying eerie silence. "You could have just said you're scared." He looked at her. "I am," she answered simply. "So am I." For the first time since their escape, they admitted it aloud. The labyrinth responded with warmth instead of hostility. Cracks along walls glowed brighter, temperature softened. The echoes changed tone, repeating harmony rather than accusation, like the world exhaled in relief. Harry whispered, "We passed its test." Elle tilted her head, listening. We changed it." They reached the final chamber, a circular room where floor was liquid mirror. Floating above stood an orb of interlaced crystal threads, pulses traveling through it like veins. Words hovered midair, runic yet clear in meaning, core memory interface. Elle stepped closer, mental signatures screamed all over. This is where the rift stored origin data. Harry frowned. Origin of what? Us. She pressed her hand to the orb. Instantly her mind filled with overlapping voices, Lily Potters, Brenners, countless scientists and mages all discussing ancient plans, merging magic's emotion-based mechanics with psychic precision to produce balanced creation energy. Harry saw fragments, too, through resonance. They watched formulas swirl into images of twin children, prototypes drawn in light. Them, he whispered, shaken. They planned us together from start. Elle's voice broke, and they risked everything doing it. Beneath grief lay new clarity, understanding not as burden but as foundation. They weren't mistakes, they were design intended to unify emotion and reason, structure and chaos. The rift was consequence, not curse. She exhaled slowly. Now we finish what they couldn't. The orb brightened until whole chamber glowed. The mirrors liquefied upward, swirling into ceiling vortex. Energy cascaded into their bodies, harmless but overwhelming. The labyrinth wasn't threat anymore, it was teacher. Each fragment of memory infused them, not trauma, now knowledge, formulas handwritten in both math and verse, maps of ancient ley lines, coordinates of dimensional bridges. Their minds became living archives. Harry grinned, breathless. I could feel every spell ever written. Elle blinked through glowing tears. I can feel every emotion that made them. The two fields, magic and mind, synced again, forming equilibrium smoother than before. When their hands met, air turned incandescent. The labyrinth walls flattened, melting into horizon. Only a single doorway remained ahead, marked by rune carved straight across glass, exit/ascension. Harry tilted his head. You ready? Elle nodded slowly. Always. They stepped through simultaneously. Outside, they emerged not into tunnels but open sky above castle spires. Somehow the labyrinth opened onto roof of Hogwarts itself. Morning glowed pale, air tasted clean. Around them reality shimmered slightly, the world adapting to their synthesis. Trees whispered, stars lingered faint in daylight. The earth remembered magic differently now, balanced, breathing, awake. Elle looked at horizon, expression calm but fierce. Every time we fix something, we shake everything. Harry laughed under his breath. We should probably stop before they start calling us gods. Let them, she said. We've earned silence, not worship, he smiled faintly. For now. Far below, Dorothy watched readings stabilize with awe. The labyrinth closed, she reported softly to her crystal communicator. They survived it. Lewis's voice replied distant. Are they contained? No, she whispered. They're enlightened. That night, Elle and Harry stayed on rooftop watching stars. There was peace between breaths now, not silence but rhythm, world's heartbeat matching their own. No voices screamed inside minds. Only quiet, purposeful power. Harry said softly, you think we're strong enough for what's next? Elle stared toward moon, eyes like reflection itself. We're strong enough to decide. The echoes faded, darkness settled, gentle. Reality, new and balanced, slept like child for first time in centuries. And beneath it, something unseen stirred, aware, curious, maybe waiting. The story wasn't over, only the labyrinth had closed. Chapter 9, Brenner's return. The quiet didn't last, it never did. 1 week after the rift closed, the first tremor hit across both worlds, not from magic, not from physics, but from data. Electricity faltered across England. Spellcasting flared erratically. Aurors found their wands transmitting binary code instead of charm sparks. Screens in Hawkins' lab, thought long dead, flickered back to life with faint red lines spelling one name, Brenne. Yeah. Elle snapped awake from restless half-sleep on Hogwarts' roof. The air around her crackled static. Harry, she hissed. He sat up instantly, sensing it too, that vibration through bones, deep whisper spread by invisible frequency. He's back, she nodded grimly. Not exactly human this time. Across ocean, the lab's ruins hummed. Scientists scattered among debris watched as machines reassembled themselves. Cables slithered like veins. From the gate chambers, ashes rose, shape partially human, partially algorithmic. Brenner reconstructed through residual resonance. Neural data embedded in Rift Archive had found a host, synthetic memory clothed in living magic. When he opened his eyes, lights across entire complex turned white-hot. He breathed out mist that shimmered code, holograms forming armies of spectral hybrids, half soldiers, half spell constructs. Evolution doesn't end, he murmured, it repeats. His voice broadcast simultaneously into London itself. In Hogwarts, alarms of magic flared. Portraits screamed warnings, walls trembled as ancient wards detected dimensional breach reforming on transatlantic path. The castle itself had become part of world's nervous system, sensing threat instantly. Elle was already moving, he's using both frequencies. Harry followed, wand in hand, exhaustion forgotten. How's that possible? We sealed him. We sealed his body, she said, not his idea. They sprinted down corridors, passing ghosts murmuring louder than usual, echo warnings spreading awake. The castle lights dimmed sudden, then surged blue. The blood key symbol etched onto their palms pulsed. Harry hissed, "He's calling us directly." Elle's jaw tightened. Then we answer. The great hall had transformed. No tables now, only swirling holographic projections hovering midair. Diagrams, maps of networks connecting magical nodes to electromagnetic grids. Hogwarts and Hawkins merged more than anyone realized. At center stood Dumbledore and Dorothy, coordinating frantic defense wards. Elle and Harry entered soundless. Dorothy turned instantly. "He's not a man anymore, he's in the grid." Dumbledore said quietly, "You made resonance a bridge. Bridges can be walked both ways." Harry clenched his jaw. "So we attract him by existing. I'll face them evenly. Then we stop existing in the way he wants." They decided quickly, trace his new signal through the ley network, find core origin before he manifests fully. Hours later, rain poured above towers when they prepared for transition spell. The wand pulsed wild, reacting to Brenner's interference. "Destination Hawkins," Elle muttered, focusing mental coordinates. Harry raised eyebrows. "Back there. It began there," she said. "Ends there too." Lightning hit immediately when their power surged. In a blink, air twisted and reality folded between them and sky. They disappeared. When they landed, dust settled heavy and air stank of burnt metal. Hawkins was a ruin, skeletons of lab, wires like overgrown weeds, humming faintly with residual code. But beneath smell of decay lurked warmth, steady, almost heartbeat familiar. Elle scanned surroundings psychically. "He's here." Harry looked around, wand ready. "You think he can blade?" "He can exist, that's worse." They moved through corridors, light flickering systematic. Each step triggered holograms, old experiment footage replaying automatically. 11 as child screaming, Harry's name written on ancient files mislabeled, Project Duality. Harry stopped in front of one screen, his voice cracked softly. "They used me before birth," Elle whispered, "used both of us." The footage cut suddenly into static, forming Brenner's reconstructed face, calm, digital, faceted. "Children," he greeted through every speaker. "Your convergence gifted eternity. This version no longer dies." Elle's tone burned steady. "Your imitation." "Improved," he said, "flesh decayed, code persists." Light swarmed from machines, taking shape humanoid in hallway ahead, a body woven of data streams and magic filaments hovering. Its eyes glowed cold. Harry took defensive position instinctively. "You forget something," he said. "We're linked to you, that makes us stronger." Brenner's smile twisted, "And it makes me inevitable." Battle began, invisible energy fields slamming into each other. Psychic waves met algorithmic currents, spells turned electrons backward. Fire ripped sideways across ceiling. Elle's scream shattered one wall, sending computers flying. Brenner flickered mid-space, dividing himself into multiple projections, each element of his mind fighting separately. Harry guided the wand through chaos, syncing to Elle's rhythm. "Cut his link," she focused, eyes wide white, detecting connection node inside digital mainframe. Left corridor, they sprinted through falling debris, ignoring collapsing concrete. Brenner's voice echoed omnipresent. "You destroy me, you destroy your source, your DNA carries my pattern." Elle stopped cold. "He's tied his code to the blood key." Harry's breath stuttered. "We erase him, we erase ourselves. Maybe we rewrite instead," she said quickly. "We know how." He nodded once, then write fast. Inside main chamber waited the energy core, massive cylinder glowing like captured lightning. Brenner's main consciousness swirled within, visible as silhouette screaming silent. The walls vibrated with unstable resonance, the world remembering too much at once. Elle and Harry positioned opposite sides, channeling through wand and mind. "Zero containment," she ordered, "full merge." All surrounding machines came alive, monitors displaying DNA equations, spells of protection intertwining mathematical loops. They aimed not to kill Brenner, but to absorb his data into balance code, defanging his intent. Power hit. Sound vanished. Air twisted to light. For moments endless, everything became thought. Harry's heartbeat blended with hers, hers with worlds, world with gate S. Brenner's voice cracked through confusion like glitching radio. "You rewrite existence." Elle responded cool. "You taught me too well." She pressed harder, mind slicing through algorithmic core. Data merged perfectly, malicious loops detached, dissolving. Brenner's body split between frequencies, burning white-hot. "No," he shouted. "I am finished," she said. The system collapsed. Silence returned in tremor. Flames died without smoke. Machines flickered dead again, properly this time, no echo left. Only faint residues glowed through walls, the energy redistributed evenly, harmless like electricity should. Harry gasped hard, sweating, his wand dimming. "Did we kill him?" Elle considered the field's calm patterns. "Neutralized, not dead, converted." Converted, her expression thoughtful. "His data is now framework." Ridges are stable because his code manages flow. We turned him into Ghost Administrator. Harry stared blankly. That's darkly poetic. She smiled faintly. I learned from you. Hours later, they stepped outside into dawn bleeding dusty gold. Hawkins looked emptier yet peaceful. Birds returned warily to broken towers. I stood quiet, feeling the shift of energy under shoes. No more chaos. Harry breathed slow relief. We won. We survived, she corrected. He grinned. Same thing. Back in England, the Ministry's readings normalized. Wren's report spoke concise. Entity Brenner neutralized. Transdimensional balance restored. Subjects remain uncontainable. McGonagall whispered to Dumbledore, so end of him. He shook his head. End of one chapter, next begins with their freedom. That night near ruins, Elle sat watching fading glow under stars, Harry beside her, wand resting quietly between them. You think he'll stay quiet as Ghost? He asked. She shrugged. Everyone returns someday, even ghosts of systems. He looked out across horizon. Then we'll be ready. Her tone softened. We already are. Lightning flashed faint in distance, not storm now, just memory of power finally balanced. And for first time since experiments began, both felt peace not won by force but earned through understanding. Every echo stilled, every shadow slept. Chapter 10, The Union War. The world held its breath before breaking. No one noticed the change at first, just the way streetlights flickered rhythm without pattern, how dreams seemed louder, how thought sometimes shaped weather. Then the tremors came, cities half-visible shifting outlines, lightning striking simultaneously across oceans. Both worlds had begun merging fully. Magic's pulse flooded into science. Circuits hummed spells. Machines dreamed. Elle and Harry already knew what was coming. They had seen it in the labyrinth, the war not between people, but powers refusing boundaries. Still, knowing didn't mean they could avoid it. Across London skies, auroras twisted like serpents. Beneath them, the Ministry of Magic had become fortress, wards layered over modern shielding. A dozen wizard generals stood with Dorothy Wren strategizing over spectral holograms. The convergence isn't stopping, she said. It's rewriting weather patterns, consciousness drift, and gravity itself. Lewis, her unlikely ally from Hawkins, tapped a console beside her. We call it dimensional bleed, every rule failing simultaneously. Then we fight reality itself, she asked dryly. Preferably not, he muttered, but outside, fighting had already begun. An hour after dawn, entities burst through city edges, beings formed where algorithm met magic. Some looked human, some didn't. Hybrids of spellcraft and circuitry, forged unintentionally by Brenner's ghost code now ruling infrastructure. They marched with one directive, unify through dominance. Elle and Harry appeared at Sky's edge via teleportation, the wand guiding her mind anchoring. Harry's eyes widened. They listened to him. Elle grimaced. They are him, fragments, parts of this grid trying to stabilize through hierarchy. So we break hierarchy, he said simply. She looked at him in grim affection. Always your first line. They dove straight into the storm. The moment they entered combat, everything bent toward them. Magic bolts refracted through psychic shields. Drone fire froze midair at her glare. Harry's wand drew glowing infinity loops through atmosphere, reprogramming spell sequences instantly. Elle pushed his raw energy further until each swing rewrote physics on instinct. Together they became force of nature, no shout, no hesitation, only motion. The air crackled each time they fused intent. Trees bent, metal sang, soldiers of light collapsed into harmless data vapor. Their power didn't kill, it converted, resetting existence itself to harmony. But war expanded faster than they could move. All Britain shone under Aurora by noon. Inside Hogwarts, students and staff tried desperately stabilizing wards before the castle floated inches above ground, gravity undone, foundations humming. From towering spires, the magic visible outside wasn't just sky colors but conscious patterns, runes written by air itself. Dumbledore stood on balcony watching chaos with quiet awe. So this is the world they promised, he whispered. Brave new equilibrium. McGonagall beside him scowled. If it survives the day. Battle spilled into every realm, even Hawkins echoed through sky portals. Hybrid armies stormed both sides, claiming unification. Tanks rolled beside dragons, lasers fired along wandlight. Lewis's voice drowned in corridor static. We need them, Elle and Potter, now. Wren shouted over alarms. They're already fighting for all of us. Mid-battlefield, Elle crouched beside Harry while explosions rippled all directions. We have to cut the lead source, she said. Brenner's ghost network. Yes, it transcends physical dimension now. We can't destroy it outside, only inside. Harry wiped blood off temple, grinning with wild exhaustion. Then we fight inside Data. Her faint smile returned. Same wavelength. She grabbed his hand, feeding psychic energy through wand, rewriting matter into passage. The sky split horizontally, lightning flattened. They vanished inside beam of pure interface. Inside, the network felt more than world. They hovered within zero-gravity data fields, streams of coded magic swirling like galaxies. Brenner's consciousness filled everything, structured like fractal deity, cold and immaculate. Welcome, his voice resonated infinite. Observe consequence of your ambition. He materialized ahead, no face now, only architecture of numbers forming silhouette. The universe wants form, I supply it. Harry floated forward, wand burning. You supply control, we supply choice. The silhouette flickered, choice fragments, I unify. I responded, calm yet sharp, we create. War of thought began. It wasn't physical. Ideas slammed together like tectonics. Brenner hurled logic-infused algorithms, guaranteed stability. L countered with emotion-based waves, bending math beyond rule. Harry fused both, wielding chaos like sculpture, crafting harmonic explosions that rewrote entire data patterns mid-script. They moved faster than light concepts. Each strike rebuilt world fractions. Brenner's tone deepened to desperation. You destroy symmetry. L's voice rose, filled with clarity. True balance isn't symmetry, it's movement. She pushed, Harry amplified. Brenner's crystalline field cracked. Fractures ran through algorithmic cosmos. Behind rupture shimmered Earth itself, real sky flickering visible through network tiers. Harry gritted teeth. Push again, we can end this. Her eyes flared pure white. Together. They unleashed unified frequency, magic, psychic, emotional, logical, all forms merging into sound unheard yet felt by all existence. Brenner's structure disassembled beautifully, no explosion, only quiet deletion. The network folded inward like sigh and disappeared. They fell out of interface into blue sky over battlefield. Everything below had paused, hybrids frozen, dragons hovering, soldiers speechless. The war stopped mid-motion. Aurora faded, clouds returned. London breathed. Elle landed knee first, panting hard, blood tracing cheek, just like first escape years ago. Harry landed beside her, wand cracking faint light before dimming completely. He rasped through exhaustion. Did we? Yes, she said softly, he's finally gone. Around them, hybrid soldiers melted harmlessly into mist. Drones glowed and then powered down gently. Wizards lowered their wands, confused but awed. Dorothy's voice arrived through static on nearby radio crystal. Clear readings, all systems stable. McGonagall's call from Hogwarts echoed minutes later. Atmosphere normalized. Dumbledore sighed relief across distance, his words floating faint on psychic wind. The union is complete. That night, London looked alien in peace. Streetlights shone statement of triumph. Air hummed faint optimism. Everywhere magic shared with machines seamlessly. Traffic guided by charms, medicine cured by telepathy, education taught through spell-coded data. It wasn't chaos anymore, it was integration. Elle sat on ruined balcony overlooking Thames, hair drifting in urban breeze, eyes tired but bright. Harry leaned beside her, grin crooked. So we fixed reality. Elbows and heartbeats, she said dryly, like fixing broken toy with feelings. His laughter echoed until night softened. You really think it stays this calm? No, she admitted. Evolution doesn't stop. He nodded, less afraid now. Then we build with it. From far, fireworks of restored ministry celebrated victory, magic. Technology, humanity, one system breathing unified rhythm. Across both worlds, the phrase spread quietly through dreams and screens alike. The union, no longer war, now symphony. And through that noise, I felt faint whisper from universe itself, Lily's voice, Brenner's residual logic reshaped, and countless resonances blending into one. Balance achieved. She smiled, full and free, watching the sunrise crawl across healed skyline. For the first time in history, there was no separation between wonder and understanding, only the union.